Hi, so I'm Andrea Reif from Positive Sue. I'm here to talk to Jay Case today about his newest album release, The Foundation, which he will be playing on December 22nd at Lop Lop. So make sure you get a chance to check that show out, as it'll be out soon. And Jay, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Okay, my name is Jay Case, and I'm from Sault Ste. Marie, Ontario, born and raised. I briefly lived in Alberta for basically a summer when I was a kid, but I've spent all of my other waking moments here in the Soo, and I absolutely love it. I grew up in a place called Case Road, which is out near Hiawatha, and so the outdoors was a huge part of my life.
Yeah.
Music and the outdoors, I could say, were basically my entire life. If I wasn't listening to my family play music and sing, I was outside with my dog and we were running through the bush, getting lost and making my mom worry.
Right.
There were more than one time that I can think of specifically that I came home, left in the morning with my dog, and then I came home just after dark, and there were police cars in my driveway because my mom was filing a missing persons report.
Where's my son?
Where's my son? He's 12 years old, and he's somewhere in the bush. A bear probably has him by the neck.
Typical
And
mom.
yeah, she was like so mad at me for a few days, but then it'd be like, hey, Mom, I'm gonna go out. Yeah, next day. Fine, go ahead. Just come back before dark, you turkey. So yeah, that was me. I went to school at Prince Charles Public School and James Lyons Public School and Prince of Wales Public School and Bawading High School, and not one of those places is still a school. So that means I think I'm getting old.
Yeah, you know what? You might be, but we all are.
I guess. And it's a beautiful thing. I was actually told by someone very close to me that whenever they start to feel like, oh, I'm getting old and I'm not really enjoying feeling older, just remember, not everyone gets to get to that point. Not everybody gets to reach 40 years. I just turned 40 this year. So if you can look at it from that perspective, it's a privilege to be able to make it to age with such grace that we're doing. Right? But
Still enjoying it.
Yeah, and just enjoy it and think about the people who didn't make it quite as far and what they would do if they were in your shoes. So
Yes.
I try to remember.
Live extraordinarily.
Exactly. Try to just not regret the beauty of aging.
That's fun. I like that. That's sort of like the joy of insignificance. Like you can
Also
say,
that.
oh, we're just a small speck in the universe,
Mhm.
but that's kind of what makes life so special, and you can do what you
So
like.
fleeting.
To do, like,
Yeah, you're not going to make a
Yeah.
humongous impact on the entire cosmos. So just like do your thing and
Yeah.
enjoy it.
And then it takes a lot of the pressure off. You can just be yourself.
Absolutely, yeah. There's a humility and a sort of like an at peace to feel that way. I
Yeah.
agree with you there.
I love that. So let's talk a little bit about your voice. When
Okay.
did you start singing, and when did you realize that you had such a cool voice?
I think I'm still trying to realize that now, but so it's interesting because my whole life I did grow up in a musical family. Like everyone, all of my aunts and uncles, most of my cousins, and certainly my grandfather and my grandmother were musicians. My grandfather was called the Sault Ste. Marie's answer to Don Messer. He was a fiddle player, absolutely fantastic East Coast fiddle player. And his name was Mel Case or Melbourne Case, but he always went by Bodo Case. And so we would have every week, probably 2 or 3 times a week, just people over from the neighborhood and my aunts and uncles, and everybody just sit in the living room. My mom would play the piano and everybody'd sing. My uncles were playing guitar, my grandpa's playing the fiddle. But I never took part in it, I just watched until I was about 17. People would always ask me, Jay, why don't you, I was an athlete, I fancied myself an athlete. I was playing sports, I was pretty sure I was gonna go to the NBA as a 5'7" point guard somehow. We don't think those things through as much anymore. The world's a bit of a bigger place now, so it's easier to realize, oh, that might not happen, so make sure you make other plans. But so when I was about 17, my mom, for my 17th Christmas, bought me a guitar because my uncle Mike Case, who people from Sault Ste. Marie, everybody
Case's
knows him.
music.
Yeah, so he opened Case's music. Geez, that was a long time ago, so probably 20 some odd years ago. And my mom went to him to buy a guitar for me to try to push me into playing an instrument just because she thought it would be good for me. And yeah, basically Christmas morning, from then on for the next 10 years, I played about 8 hours a day. I just couldn't believe how I've missed this my whole life. But I didn't sing. I didn't sing until my mid mid to late 20s when I started singing, actually. I played guitar in several bands that toured around Ontario and stuff, but I didn't sing. I sang backups. I was very meek.
What do you think brought it out of you?
I think the act of actually singing and just sort of being a little more confident. So I was a bit meek, but then I started singing backups, and then it's like, oh, maybe do you want to try singing a song? Oh my gosh, I couldn't do that. But I felt comfortable with a guitar in my hands, but singing is laying bare your soul, is what it feels like. And it takes a while to be comfortable with that, because it's not an instrument you can't hide behind oh, well, the strings are a bit old, so it sounds a bit weird, or, oh, this guitar is out of tune a little bit. It's you.
Yeah, you're bearing yourself to everybody.
So,
yeah.
and then my mid-20s, I had sort of just taken a little bit by little bit by little bit. Gradually, the singer friends that I had I was playing with were very gracious in helping me get there. But about 25, 26, I started singing, and yeah, I haven't looked back. I really, really enjoy it. I find it to be something that I'm still learning to do as well. When I sing a new song, even if I've written it, it's still a new song. I still have to learn it myself, learn the ins and the outs of it, and learn what each line is going to sound like when I deliver it perfectly.
That's so cool. That's getting to know a whole other aspect of yourself when you believed you were one way, and then you realize, oh, I'm capable of even more.
I can do this stuff too, man. Yeah.
Yeah, that's so cool.
So I through years of I used to be a smoker. I'm a bit embarrassed to say. Not embarrassed. We all go through things in our life that we might look back on and say, well, that might have been a mistake. But at the time, I did that for a little bit, and I have a fair affinity for whiskey. So that helped to shape my voice quite a bit. So by the time I was in my mid-30s, I had this rasp to my voice that not everybody is blessed with. But yeah, I try to harness that and hopefully make it sound not too bad.
Well, that's using your past for your own benefit.
That's it.
Using it to create more.
That's right. Yeah,
this
exactly.
Is part of who I was.
This making lemonade. Lemons. Yeah.
Yeah. So, what was the first album you ever found yourself buying that maybe brought inspiration in you?
That's a great question. I was always a music fan, not always a musician, but the one that I can remember that and this is going to sound maybe out of character, was Appetite for Destruction by Guns N' Roses.
Yeah.
So it came out in like 1986, and I think I didn't get it until I was probably 10 or 11 years old, and that would put it around like 1990. Mm-hmm. So it was already out there, and I'd heard the songs before, but it was like, it wasn't something that all my friends were listening to. It wasn't something that my family was listening to. There were swears in there. There was like some sexual innuendo, or actually overt stuff like that on the album, and drug use and all that. But I just found it so fascinating. And I remember getting the cassette. I had to actually, my mom wouldn't buy it for me, so I actually had to
sneak out and get it yourself.
Yeah, I had to.
I did that with Eminem.
There you go, right? So I went out and I used money that I had earned through whatever odd jobs, and went out and bought the cassette. And I just remember unfolding, because you could see all the lyrics. Like they were really tiny. I don't think at this age I could read the darn things anymore, but yeah, exactly. So that one was huge for me, just as like, oh my gosh, because I was listening to country music, even classic rock. My uncles were into that, my Uncle Terry especially, which is the youngest of my uncles. He lived in the house until I was probably 5 or 6, the house that I grew up in. So he was a big influence on me musically. So he listened to Kiss and ZZ Top and stuff like that. And so I was always surrounded by that, and East Coast fiddle music all the time, and Wilf Carter and old school country. And then this was like, oh my gosh, this is out of nowhere. And then that led to my first real musical influence, which was Jimi Hendrix.
Oh man, Jimmy's the king.
Yeah, he's my guy. I almost have this sort of possessive sort of vibe to it, because I'm like talking to people and I say like, oh yeah, you know Jimmy. You don't know Jimmy like I know Jimmy. And I think a really good artist, obviously he's my gosh, I can't even think, transcendent artist who just transcends genre and generations. But yeah, he was definitely my first major influence musically that I didn't know personally. So Little Wing is still to this day my very favorite song, and if I'm ever feeling sort of melancholy or longing for the past a bit, I'll just flip that song on and just chill right out. and listen to it, and that solo is just so beautiful. Yeah. So Guns N' Roses, Appetite for Destruction was like, oh my gosh, there's other music out there. And then Jimi Hendrix was like, okay, this is pulling all the things together, all the parts and pieces, and this is sort of my heart and soul. Yeah.
Well, music has a funny way of making you feel like you belong in the world.
Oh, for sure. The best music, in my humble opinion, for me, is the music that you can relate to and someone else can relate to, but in a different way or for different reasons. There's a beautiful quote by Dave Grohl, who's one of my favorite guys.
Yeah.
Like, I obviously love the music, but he's just a really cool guy. And I'm going to paraphrase because I don't know the quote off by heart, but he'll say, music is a beautiful thing because you can have a stadium full and singing with 85,000 people, and every single one of them are singing for a different reason. And they're coming at it from a different perspective because the song means something slightly different to everyone.
Yeah.
And I think that is really important. As a songwriter, I've always tried to leave an ambiguity to the lyrics and not be so literal that it has to be definitely about this.
Yeah, you give room for people to
interpret it, because I think that way you can touch more people's creativity within themselves. I think that's my favorite type of music, so I try to do that as best I can.
Well, your music comes across very soothing, and it comes across very, like, I spent all day listening to it today, as I was saying earlier.
And you're still not sick of hearing my
No,
voice?
I'm not sick of
Okay.
hearing it at all.
All
It's soothing. It's full of memories, and I think that's what really good music does, is it puts you in another place.
Yeah.
It reminds you of other people that you've been as you've been going through this crazy little whirlwind of life.
Beautiful way to put it. Other people that you've been. I love that, yeah. That's a lot about what, one of the songs, Beautiful You, I find you can hear it as, and the way I kind of intended it was, when you plan for things and you have this vision of what you're going to be in the future, and those things are inevitably not going to be exactly that way, and that's okay. It's important to remember that person that you were isn't the same person that you are now, but it's still, you're still beautiful. And don't lose the beauty of that in the ever-changing directions of your life and the people that you are.
Yeah, as you come to terms with reality and,
Yeah, I mean,
and
you're
different
faced with
aspects.
things that are outside of your control, and some things you do control, and it's still beautiful.
It's funny because when you're young, you're so sure too. Like,
Oh my gosh.
I remember being like, no, this is who I'm going to be. This is what I'm going to
Yeah.
do. And I'm getting older now. I'm like, wow, I am not who I would have thought I'm going
gonna be.
Yeah, but I'm so happy about that because, like, it's all right. You know, there's so
I'm good
many
with who I am, yeah.
Yeah.
If I was a little kid, and I was sure, I was saying before that I was going to be an NBA basketball player, I was so sure, and I was practicing all the time and playing all the time. Even that little kid, if he looked at me today and went, "Oh, you're doing this now? Awesome, just as well. Love it." So yeah, I always keep that in mind.
So, Foundation, where did you come up with the title for that? What is the meaning of that behind it for you?
It's pretty personal to me. There's a song on the record called "Beautiful You" that in the choruses, there's a line that says, "There was salvation on this old foundation," and that's kind of where I came from, because there's a common theme in the album. When I was recording it, or when I was compiling the songs for the album, a lot of them were written like years and years and years ago, but some were written while I was recording the album. But as I was recording them and compiling the songs and writing them, a common theme started to emerge where it was about the people and the places and the things that shaped that person that you are today. And at different times of your life. So through each of the songs, there's a very personal element for me that ties back to a thing that made me who I am today, or maybe is right now making me who I'm going to be tomorrow.
Yeah.
So, and that's all part of Foundation. And I was in a state of sort of upending, and I was in flux, and I was in just a transitional point in my life, which we all run into several times in our lives, I'm sure.
The chaos and
Chaotic
the
and
highs and the lows.
yeah, and
peaks and valleys.
there's an uncertainty as to like what was I doing, what am I doing now, and what am I going to do? And there's a certain strength in that as well, but sometimes you can feel a bit weak. Like in the song January Cold, which is
Yeah,
was
oh
written-
man, that was my favorite.
Okay, So that was written in a very and like it was written in January, and it was right during that sort of that time of flux and chaos that was going on, and I tried to put it into music how I was kind of feeling at the time. But I think some people disagree, but I think that there's a sense of that you can overcome. There's a sense of optimism to it. And the reason is the first line that I wrote was of that song. I was walking down the street and it was just getting pelted by snow, and it was windy on Queen Street down the wind tunnel. And I said to myself, this bitterness is fleeting. Don't worry about it. Like it's not going to be, there's going to be a tailwind on the way home.
Yeah, changes the
It's a headwind. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I thought that, and then I thought, that was a nice turn of phrase. So I picked it up and I wrote the song in about 15 minutes when I got back from my appointment. So yeah, I mean, that common theme of shaping you and where you grow up from, and it doesn't necessarily mean from birth, because you can have a rebirth and a rebirth and a rebirth, and that's the beautiful thing about life. And if you get the opportunity like we have so far to keep living it, is that foundation it was a common theme. So that's kind of where the album name came from anyway.
What I really enjoy about that is it makes me think about, I've heard that if you're writing a book, you should wait till the end to write the title, because you're experiencing the entire book, or songs in your case, as you're writing them. They're making you at the same time as you're making them.
Absolutely, yeah. I didn't write until the name of the album until I was doing album art, and I said, well, what the heck do I put on the front? So I had to learn the songs. I had to learn what the album meant to me, and there was definitely that common theme.
Yeah, and you're going to be touring with this one now.
That's correct, yeah. So we did a quick little jaunt down to Southern Ontario, myself and my bandmates, Frank Duresti and Chris Johns. We've toured together as the three of us plus others for years and years together, so it was just a natural fit. Whereas on the record, I played all the instruments and stuff like that on there, but these guys are my absolute brothers, like as close to family as you can get without sharing DNA, and we probably do share DNA. But so we went on a quick little run earlier in November, down south to a couple of places that are like second homes to us. Just a quiet little CD release to just say, hey guys, here's CDs, tell your friends. And we have an upcoming show at the end of December at Loplop's Lounge that we're going to be releasing locally. And then in the spring or early summer, we're going to plan a bit of a tour around Ontario, maybe just a little bit outside of Ontario. Still in the works, still applying to festivals and stuff like that right now. So yeah, we plan to tour this album relatively hard to try to get the word out there, spread the good word.
Are you planning on going just down south or out west, or
so
anywhere you guys can get?
Yeah, anywhere we can get. I've put out feelers west, and I put out feelers east of Ontario. Southern Ontario is really nice as a touring artist because unlike here, towns are sort of, a population center is maybe a half an hour, at the absolutely most, half an hour away by car to like get to a place of 10,000 people, 15,000 people. Whereas here, it's an hour. You go in an hour and then another hour. Unless you go north, then it's 2 hours, which I love that too, but it makes it tough to tour, especially in the wintertime.
Yeah, it's good for your soul, but it's not always the best for socializing.
That's it, yeah.
It's like, we got the Outback.
Yeah.
All right, I'll come see you next week because it's kind of far.
Yeah. Not happening.
You're going to have to give me some time to get some gas money. Yeah.
Well, that's it, right? So it's expensive to tour in Canada. Fuel prices, all that stuff. I mean, it is expensive, but it's so worth it, and I wouldn't give it up. I do enjoy to play locally, but I don't play locally a heck of a lot. It's for a few reasons, but one of the chief reasons is just so that I don't oversaturate and people aren't saying, oh my god, this guy's playing again. Like, okay.
Cool, Jim.
Yeah, take it easy, man. Yeah, so
I don't think that would happen. Your music has a really impactful sound to it.
I appreciate that so much.
Again, I'm going to use it. It's the warm blankets.
That's awesome.
It's very comforting.
It's comforting to me. So
it's memories, and it's got a lot of hope to it. Because I like that you've managed to make songs that, like, there's some sad songs in there, and there's songs that are very emotional, but they don't feel depressing. They feel very accepting of what life is. They feel very, like, cool. cool breeze.
Beautiful. That's awesome. I mean, I think was my unintentional intent.
Yeah,
right.
You've got a very kind heart coming through your music.
I love to hear that. That's so amazing. That's good. I like to think that music can really show the best side of what you're hearing, of your human being, because especially if you can connect with it, then because I think you sometimes you say, well, that song might mean this, and that means that you've got a beautiful heart, but maybe that's just reflecting that you've got a beautiful heart, and you're hearing it in your music.
Yeah, you see in others what you see in yourself.
For sure.
And that can be good, and that can be bad.
It can be a lot of things.
But it's definitely always a lesson.
Yeah, sure, yeah.
So, Sault Ste. Marie, growing up here, what would you say was your favorite aspect of it, and how did you fall into the actual music scene here, not just with your family, but with
good
playing?
one. So, as I said, I loved growing up in Sault Ste. Marie. In elementary school, you don't really have a frame of reference, especially back in my day, back in the 80s, I know, growing up in the 80s before my teenage years. Didn't watch a lot of TV. We had black and white TV until I was probably 16. And even when we got a color TV, it was a 13-inch TV. Yeah. So I didn't see a lot of the outside world that way. So I didn't know that there was a big wide world out there, right? And it didn't really bother me.
Simpler too, though, because
much more simple.
Media.
That's it. It's so nice. So my life was lived outdoors. I have a hunting cabin. I don't hunt personally, but my grandfather did. That's north of Thessalon, about 45 minutes, way out in the middle of nowhere. And that is like,
the dream.
Oh my gosh, but that's my heart. It's my whole heart. And when I go there, I just feel like I'm visiting myself almost, or a ghost of myself. And so I absolutely love it out there. And so, but when I got to high school, everybody was sort of talking about, it's a small town and there's nothing to do here.
Yeah,
and,
typical.
And this
people.
this is a running theme that I've still run into. I mean, I'm 40 years old, and I still run into people, very few people my age, but people in their 20s just say, there's nothing to do here. It's a one-horse town, or such backward thinking and all of that. But even when I was a kid, I was like, no, this is amazing here. I love to visit Toronto. I love to visit Detroit. I went to Germany this year and did some touring around over there. I love to visit those beautiful places, but I'm always so happy to come back and find the solitude within a 5 minutes drive. I can be completely alone on the water with trees surrounding me, or somewhere, and I mean
downtown, enjoying people.
And then if I want to, I go downtown, go to the museum, or go to the library, or if it's at night, go to a restaurant or a bar, or even a coffee shop. There's some really cool coffee shops in town now that there weren't before, and right downtown. And it's so nice to be able to just have those gathering places. You don't need to go to Toronto or find like a Costco or something like that. That's not what makes a town. So I've found the Sioux is living a bit of a renaissance, in my humble opinion, where people of my age and a little bit younger are moving back with their families after having moved out west, or having moved down to southern Ontario or a bigger center, maybe out to Montreal. And they've had their children, and they're saying, you know what, I want to slow down a little bit. I'm going to move back to my community. I have a few friends who were, very go-getter, hard, working their way up the ladder, and then they went, okay,
I can mellow out now.
I'm
ready for Sault Ste. Marie.
I'm going to move back. I'm going to maybe do some independent consulting. I'm going to be doing, freelancing. And they're just living a beautiful life that they love. And that's the life I've been trying to live since they left.
It's so funny though, because I really believe that travel has a lot to do with how people see Sault Ste. Marie. And a lot of people, even where I'm from down south, my hometown, everybody, it was the same thing, but a lot of them go home because that's, it's what you know, and it's a huge part of the core of yourself. So
absolutely.
Travel has a way of opening your eyes to the benefits of what you're coming back to when you go home.
I couldn't agree more, and I think travel as an activity is so important for us humans.
Culturally, it really expands our mind.
Exactly, and we are super lucky. I mean, one of the lottery of being born in a relatively affluent, first world country with, a thriving economy that allows us the basic necessities, basically almost, certainly not necessarily, but almost as a given. There are brothers and sisters we have in our midst that aren't living those, and we need to make sure we can get them those amenities. But mostly, we're very privileged to live here. So if you can, travel to other communities, learn a different language. I've traveled all over the world, not all over the world, but to a few different places that I really love. Overseas a few times, down to Latin America a bunch of times, out west. And the more I do, the more I respect and the less fear I have of the other.
Yeah.
Another person
Absolutely.
or another culture or another language or whatever. So I think that's so important to travel.
I 100% relate to that. As we went to Greece this summer, and I remember feeling like, wow, it doesn't matter where you are, like it's just people living their lives the same as we all do in different cultures, different everything. But once you open yourself up to it, people are just people.
That's it, yeah.
They've got their routines, no matter what they say. Wild, I'm free. You still got a routine.
yeah, that's right.
Your routine is just a little more barefoot.
Yeah, it's a little wilder and freer, but it's still a routine, yeah.
And it really, I remember thinking it was hilarious the first time I came back to Sault Ste. Marie and was like, I missed it. This is my home now.
Yeah, well, there you go. That's beautiful. There was a time where you felt you're definitely at home, and I like that.
Youth has a huge part of it too, though, because the youth is like, I just remember being like, I have to get out, I have to go west. West is best. I gotta be in the mountains.
Sure, man.
And I never thought that I'd come back to Sault Ste. Marie and be like, wow, like, I don't want to leave. I like the simplicity of it. I like the community.
Yeah.
We got
even
a good
like the snow.
I love the snow.
Oh, awesome.
I like looking at it from out my window.
Not shoveling it.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I couldn't agree more. I think every time I get to the point where I'm like, oh man, I have to shovel the driveway again or whatever. I just keep thinking there's 4 seasons. You can enjoy this season. I mean, we have so much to do here. Searchmont is opening soon. The Hiawatha Highlands for cross-country skiing is already open.
Here too. Like, let's just put that out there. I know it's very Canadian, but
that is
like the fact that we can do that is cool.
Yeah, you
we
can
have
go to
people
Quincy.
who love doing that.
Yeah, you can go to public spaces and do this.
Yeah.
It's beautiful.
And like a lot of people like getting involved. Plus, we
Certainly.
have colleges. They're all about outdoor wilderness.
Yeah.
Sault College.
Sault College, yeah, it's fantastic. They got a great outdoor program.
Everybody that lives in this city really is very outdoor minded. Usually.
I think so. I think the people that stay certainly are. The people that aren't, they want the concrete jungle. They
go chase it.
They go chase it, and they hopefully thrive,
Yeah.
and do their thing, and then hopefully come back with a little bit more of an appreciation for what they have here.
So, if you could put it in one sentence.
Oh, I'm not very good at being terse, but I'll try.
Oh, let's see what we can do with you.
Okay, all right.
What would you say makes Sault Ste. Marie unique?
Good one.
I like putting people on the spot.
Yeah, you certainly did.
I get a sick joy out of this.
What makes Sault Ste. Marie unique? I mean, in location, I could put it to one word. Location. The location of Sault Ste. Marie, where we're blessed to have been located here in Boateng at the fast-moving falls. It's unparalleled, really. Just to walk out, like I work my day job during the day. I'm about a block from the waterfront, and I can walk outside of my place of business and look at the most beautiful set of rapids that are still kind of natural, and this wonderful body of water. And if I walk a little bit farther and look north, I can see some mountains in the background, which is where I grew up.
Yeah. Cliffs too.
Some cliffs. Yeah, Robertson, for the first time in my life, believe it or not, this fall, my partner and I went and experienced the Robertson Cliffs. And it was absolutely breathtaking. So amazing. It was in the fall, and all the colors, and we got snowed on. And it was just amazing. Yeah, it was beautiful. So, and that's 40 minutes by car.
Yeah, it's so accessible.
Yeah.
Everything that's good for your soul is accessible.
So, yeah, exactly. And then you can go east, and you're on the north shore of Huron, which is also such an amazing landscape, and so different from that shore of Superior up there. I try at least 2 times every summer to get out and backcountry camp by canoe and with tents and hiking in the Lake Superior Provincial Park, which is a gem that we have located less than an hour. I absolutely love it. the location of Sault Ste. Marie, to be able to do that, and you're 5 hours from Detroit, or you're 3 hours from Sudbury, where there's bigger city things happening, and then you can be into Toronto in an hour and 10 minutes by plane if you want, if there's a seat sale.
Yeah. Sales are good.
Yeah.
We like
so-
sales.
Yeah, see now, did you see what I did there? I summed it up in a word, but then I went on for 10 minutes and
I was like,
explained that word.
this is not a sentence.
Location. You can cut that and just say location.
We won't cut that. That's good stuff. That's good stuff. So I think your music has brought a lot of blessings to Sault Ste. Marie. I think that what you're capable of sharing with people, and I think that the openness that you have to be willing to sit and just chit chat with me even, and to
It's a
share
pleasure.
your music, it's a gift. And a lot of people have these gifts, but to recognize it and to do something about it, I think that's what sets some people apart. And I think you're one of those people.
Appreciate that very, very much. It's been an absolute pleasure. I don't love talking about myself, but you asked questions in a way that I didn't feel like I was, so that's great.
I try to make people comfortable. I just like to talk. I
The
love
mint
having
tea
people
was
over.
really nice too, yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank
I
you
love
for
your
that.
tea.
And the cactus cups, I'm not sure if this will be a running theme, but the cactus cups are where it's at.
We do have positive Sue mugs coming in. I don't know if I can get them in Cactus thing, but if I can, I will.
I think so. Just bring these in
I would
and
like
get them
a
silk
logo,
screened.
positive Sue, my lovely business.
I'm positive this is an amazing cup.
Yeah, we like cactuses here.
Okay. Reminds you of places far away?
It reminds me of Juno.
Juneau, Alaska? The movie Juno.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, yeah. Her mom was. Okay, now we cut this.
Okay, well, let's cut this.
All right, cool. Well, thank you for coming and chit-chatting with me. And again, his album is released now. We've got the release party at Lop Lops, one of our absolute favorite places to go in Sault Ste. Marie to listen to awesome
Live music.
It's
Yeah.
very radical. And it'll be December 22nd. Doors open at 8 o'clock, or doors open at 7 o'clock.
Doors at 7, but trust me, I'm not sure when you lovely people are viewing this. We right now, as of taping, we're over half sold, and there's still 2.5 weeks left. So I would definitely try to get it online.
Get
There
your
won't be
tickets.
tickets at the door. Buy them online or message me. Go to my website, and you can just send me a message, and we'll get you hooked up.
All right, and get one of JK's CDs. He's an amazing, amazing artist. Local. We're very proud to have him here.
Thanks so much.